Level 1, the Oarsman. You're 16 years old, sitting on a sea-slicked wooden bench for your first voyage. Your coarse wool tunic feels heavy, and the smell of pine tar, salt water, and unwashed men fills the Longship. You've spent your childhood wrestling in the dirt and learning the weight of an axe, where the older boys battered you until you learned not to flinch. Today is your first journey across the open sea. As you pull the heavy ash oar to your chest and feel the ship cut the gray waves, your home fjord vanishes in the fog. Out here, the world is terrifying. You quickly learn that sailing isn't about the glory of the sagas. It's a brutal battle of enduring freezing wind, bailing icy water, and matching the rhythm of the oarsmen ahead of you. One misstroke, and the crew suffers. You make landfall days later, hands covered in burst blisters, your heart pounding. You are no longer just a boy from the farm. You are a seafarer.
Level 2, the Shield Biter. You're 20, standing in the mud of a foreign coast, breathing heavily behind your wooden round shield. You wear the iron-ringed mail of a proven warrior, but in the warband, you're still green. Your job is simple. Lock your shield with the man to your left, overlap the man to your right, and never break the line. You spend hours in sparring circles, enduring bone-jarring impacts until your shoulder screams and your breathing becomes a rhythmic grunt behind the lindenwood. You learn the brutal mechanics of close combat, the spear thrust, the axe hook, the shield bash. When you look to your left, your brother-in-arms is just inches away, screaming at the Saxon line. You don't think about the lethal steel waiting for you. You focus on keeping your footing in the bloody soil. You hold the line when the enemy crashes into you like a wave. You aren't leading the charge yet, but you are the unbreakable wall they rely on.
Level 3, the Blood-Eyed Veteran. You're 25, crouching in the misty reeds of a riverbank at dawn. Pitch darkness surrounds you. The quiet command is given, and in seconds, your crew surges from the Longships, boots pounding against the damp earth. This isn't a sparring ring anymore. Your mission is to assault a fortified monastery holding silver and winter supplies. Over the palisade walls, the warning bells ring out. The enemy knows you are coming. Your heart hammers, but muscle memory takes over. You deflect a spear thrust, step inside the guard of a defender, and drive your sea axe home. The clash of iron and the screams of the dying fill the air. The warlord yells, "To the gates!" You push through the chaos, hacking away the wooden crossbar as arrows splinter the wood around your head. The gates burst open. You return to the ship hours later, covered in mud and blood that isn't your own, clutching a bag of silver. You sit on the deck exhausted, shaking quietly in the cold wind. You've seen true war now.
Level 4, the Ship's Captain. You're 29, a seasoned warrior, and now the Styrismother, captain of your own longship. You command a crew of 40 men, navigating treacherous coastal waters. The lives of these warriors, younger versions of who you used to be, are now your absolute responsibility. During a raid along a rocky coastline, an unexpected threat appears. 2 heavy local warships moving to block the river mouth. You don't have time to hesitate. You shout commands over the roaring wind in crisp, calm directives. Ship oars! Hoist the sail! You catch the crosswind, violently steering the tiller to ram the broadside of the lead enemy vessel. You guide your men as they leap across the crashing hulls, breaking the enemy spirit in minutes, and bring every single one of your men back to the ship. In the feast hall later, you don't boast about your own kills. You spend an hour scolding a young oarsman for a delayed knot tie that nearly cost the ship its mast. A good captain doesn't just survive the sea, he masters it.
Level 5, the Weapon Master. You're 34,
a scarred veteran recognized as one of the deadliest fighters in the region. Now, your job is to instruct the next generation of raiders. You push young warriors to their absolute physical and mental breaking points in the muddy training rings. You stand over them for hours, watching them spar, pointing out millimeter errors in their shield positioning or split-second tactical misjudgments that would leave their throats exposed. You tell them, the Saxons won't give you a second chance, and neither will I. You strike a boy's legs out from under him when he overextends his axe swing, forcing him to fight from the dirt. You watch a youth who was struggling finally master the technique of hooking an enemy's shield edge to open their guard. You smile quietly into your braided beard. You aren't just swinging axes anymore. You're forging lethal weapons out of the village youth. Level 6, the Warlord. You're 39, a Jarl commanding a fleet of 20 Longships. The deck of a single ship is no longer your primary domain. The high seat in the mead hall is. You manage vast amounts of wealth, timber supplies, winter provisions, and the volatile tempers of rival captains. But when the summer raiding season comes, you lead from the front. During a massive siege on a Frankish city, you lead a multi-pronged assault against towering stone walls. When your finest champion takes a crossbow bolt to the shoulder, you personally drag him behind the siege shields, shouting commands to maintain the ram's momentum through the barrage of flaming arrows. Back in your own lands during the winter, you have to pay the blood price to a mother when her son falls in battle. That night, holding a heavy silver arm ring by the hearth fire, you realize that command is the heaviest burden you've ever carried.
Level 7, the Explorer. You're 43, known across the fjords as a pathfinder. You sail into the deep, churning oceans that others fear, charting waters that officially don't exist on any map. Your job is pushing the boundaries of the known world, sailing past the icy north, relying on sunstones through thick fog, and deliberately risking starvation to find untouched lands. Out in the open ocean, where the sky turns black with storm clouds and the waves dwarf your ship, the mast splinters with a deafening crack. While the crew panics in the freezing spray, you calmly seize the tiller, shouting orders to cut the rigging and row into the swell to prevent capsizing. You survive the night, and by dawn, you spot the green shores of a new Uncharted island. You drag the ship onto the rocky beach, walk up to the tree line, and tell your exhausted navigator, mark this coastline on the wood. You live on the edge of discovery.
Level 8, the Great Heathen Commander. You're 48, a legendary Konungur commanding an entire invasion force of over 200 ships and thousands of hardened warriors. You no longer fight in every minor skirmish, but your presence on the battlefield dictates the tides of war. You oversee massive, multi-kingdom campaigns, coordinating infantry, cavalry stolen from local lords, supply trains, and political alliances into a single, synchronized machine of conquest. When winter approaches in enemy territory, your army does not retreat. You stand on a hill, overlooking a sprawling encampment of tents and campfires, stretching to the horizon, watching your warriors sharpen their steel in the snow. You realize that true supremacy isn't just about winning a shield wall. It's about logistics, wintering, and breaking the economic will of an entire kingdom before the battle even begins.
Level 9, the Lawspeaker. You're 54, a king sitting on a carved oak throne. You wear a cloak of rich furs and imported silk, sitting at the Allthing with rival jarls, chieftains, and foreign envoys. Your battleground is no longer the muddy shores. It's blood feuds, trade monopolies, and future laws. You fight fiercely to secure alliances through marriage, monopolize the amber trade, and build fortified towns. A rival chieftain suggests cutting the silver payments to the standing royal guard to save wealth for the regional jarls. You look him in the eye and recall the night you almost died outside those Frankish walls years ago.
You tell the Silent Hall, silver paid to the guard isn't an expense. It's the difference between us keeping these lands or being slaughtered in our beds by ambitious fools. The challenge is withdrawn. You are still protecting your people, just from a throne. Level 10, the Ancestor. You're 62 years old. You passed the leadership to your fiercest son 2 winters ago. There was a grand feast, the sacrifice of a stallion, and the passing of your legendary sword, its pommel worn smooth by your grip. Today, you stand near the icy docks of your prosperous town, watching a young boy walk onto a newly built longship with a wooden shield slung over his shoulder. You hear the rhythmic drumming and the deep chant of the oarsman as the ship glides into the misty fjord, banking toward the open sea. You touch the small, heavy silver hammer of Thor hanging around your neck. You reflect on the brutal winter storms, the blood-soaked shield walls, the comrades who feast in Valhalla, and the legacy you carved into the world. You were never just a raider. You were a shaper of history, part of an unbroken chain of warriors who forced the world to remember their names.